So today we're going to look at the enormous 11.5 feet by 22 feet um, painting by Picasso, which was commissioned by the Paris International Exposition. They invited Picasso to paint a painting for the Spanish Pavilion in 1937. So he decided to create a political piece, but he was so absolutely horrified by the German bombing of the Basque town of Guernica. And although usually he didn't get politically involved with or didn't include particularly political things in his paintings, this was something he could not avoid reacting to. He had such a strong guttural reaction because it was such a horrific, tragic, and unnecessary destruction of a town in the Basque region of Spain. And I think around 1,400 people were killed in one fell swoop. And so he wanted to paint something that explored that and evoked a reaction in the people that look at the painting, which indeed it does. It was originally a Spanish pavilion, and then it was not allowed to be in Spain. Picasso asked for it to be housed at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, rather than be in Spain under the dictatorship of Franco. So his sort of dying wishes were that it wouldn't go back until Franco was gone. So it went back in the 80s. It was returned once it was a democratic country. So it is now at the Reina Sofia Museum in Madrid. So looking at the painting, it's not quite black and white. There are sort of greys and creamy colours, but generally speaking, it is a monochrome, greys, blacks, whites, and cream painting. And quite clearly is a very emotive piece. There are all sorts of theories about this painting. There are all sorts of elements in it which are symbolic. So there are some people that feel that the bull is rather complacently looking out to the viewer in a sort of stoic way. Some people say that's representation of Spain being strong and being able to get through this. Other people have said that the bull might represent oppression, and then beneath him is the woman crying, holding the baby. It's quite clearly dead in her arms and screaming up to possibly the bull, but we're not quite sure. I mean, obviously she's positioned beneath the bull, but it's almost like the cry or the guttural scream is going up higher than that. In the sort of left of centre, we have the all-seeing eye. It looks like an upside down eye rather than a light. We've got the sort of lashes of light, eyelashes of light coming out underneath. We've got the soldier in the bottom left of the painting holding the broken sword, and there's a flower which is supposed to represent peace that's coming out from the sword as if it's growing organically from the sword. On the right of the painting, we have someone engulfed in flames. There's a general sort of, although it's a painting and there isn't any actual movement, for me, this painting feels like it's in continuous movement. It feels like there could be even more people coming from right of stage across the screen, and like the screaming and the running and the fear could continue forever in this painting. It's got a cubist style with different planes taking us into various aspects of the painting. It's chaotic, but there's a sort of weird serenity about some parts of it where the light is hitting the faces. It's almost like the dying light is hitting the dying people. It's a painting which changes in a way. Every time you look at it, there's something new to be seen within it. It's a very, very powerful piece of work. And even to this day, it stands the test of time and is a very formidable painting to look at. It took Picasso just 3 weeks to complete. And there's also, if you look closely, it's almost like there is text written on parts of the horse that's in the center. There are theories about that as well. When I first saw it, I thought it was newspaper because Picasso and Braque used a lot of newspaper for their collages in the sort of 1900s, the early, sort of about 1912 to 1918. They were doing what was called synthetic cubism, which was towards the end of cubism, and they were playing around with the surface of the canvas. So I feel a bit like that's reminiscent of that. Of course, with fascism, you have propaganda through the state-owned newspaper outlets. So I wondered if this was something about being dictated through the newspaper, and that's why it's been included in this. There's an arm coming out holding the lamp in the center of the canvas, almost reaching up to heaven. There's obviously a connection. We've got the light, which is electrical, which is people are dependent on the government and paying the government for the light. And then there's an arm holding a candle up to the heavens. And for me, that feels like there's a sort of battle there almost between the people-owned lamp where the light can be got for themselves and the light that's governing them from the all-seeing eye, which is on top of their whole world, looking out over everyone, very much like the big brother eye that we talked about in the Van Gogh painting that we analysed before with the Night Cafe. The eye in this painting, the Orwellian eye, predates Orwell's novel written in 1949 at the end of the war, Second World War. So in a way, this painting preceded this notion of the all-seeing eye. I wonder if Orwell was influenced by this. Perhaps he was. I'm sure he was, because he did go to fight in Spain against the dictatorship, so of course this must have had a heavy influence on him. Written around the same time as the George Orwell 1984. And so this idea of the fascist manipulation of people was very much in the air at the time, obviously because fascism was taking off in Germany, and Spain was fascist, and Italy was fascist. So fascism was obviously a very big part of what was going so badly wrong with these countries. And this is a reaction to that all-seeing fascistic eye at the top of this canvas, the all-seeing fascistic eye at the top of this canvas. We are drawn into the canvas by the various planes of light, the strobing light, in a way that's coming from the fire and the fascistic eye and the flames of, I'm assuming, the bombs that have gone off, that have lit up the sky and lit up the decaying, tortured, dismembered bodies. This painting is probably one of the most powerful paintings I've ever seen. I'd highly recommend visiting it to have a look at it. It's not something you can digest lightly, obviously. It's something that really does affect you. And it's a painting I'll never forget. It sort of embeds itself in your psyche. So I'd highly recommend going to see it. And then after you've come out, going somewhere for a quiet sit down to digest the horror of what you have witnessed in this painting.